Garten.
And today we have reports in Mexico. We heard that the legacy of Spanish colonialism and long-term political instability caused some problems for Mexico.
And the newly emerging South American nations did nothing to add that
Seems
problem.
Mexico had further issue to contend with, a shared border with the U.S., also known as the Colossus of the North.
Yeah, and there are reports of the U.S. wanting to extend its territory all the way to the Pacific.
However, most of the lands in the American Southwest belong to Mexico. Info about Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna, who dominated Mexican politics.
In 1821, he played a leading role in Mexico's fight for independence from Spain.
To fight against Spain again after European power tried to gain control of Mexico in 1829.
Then he became president 4 times from 1833 to 1835. His was to lead to the Mexican army in an effort to retain the territory of Texas.
Okay, now to the weather. So it looks like the Mexicans encouraged Americans to help populate the country of Mexico. Thousands of English-speaking colonists actually agreed to pledge and follow the laws of Mexico in return for inexpensive land. We seem to have growing tensions coming in as the population of the Anglos grow. Colonists in Mexico had problems with slavery and religion, and some Texas colonists wanted greater self-government. Breaking news coming from Mexico. Emily, can you tell us what's happening?
And since Mexico refused to request a self-government, a revolt is now breaking out, and it appears to be led by an Anglo named Stephen Austin.
Grant, do we have any other news?
Yes, in fact, Santa Anna is leading forces north to hold onto the territory and won some battles like the Battle of Alamo. In the Battle of San Jajito, his troops were captured. Luckily, Texan leader Sam Houston released Santa Anna after he promised to respect the independence of Texas. Santa Anna returned to Mexico and was ousted from power.
The U.S. has now added Texas to be a part of its nation.
But Santa Anna wasn't too happy about it, so he regained power and fought against the U.S.
Over the border, and America invaded them and defeated Santa Anna's army after 248. They both signed the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, where the U.S. received the northern third of Mexico's land.
Exile, but then returned in 1853 to be dictator one last time, and then reached his final fall in 1855 when he was exiled for almost 20 years.
He was poor, blind, powerless, and forgotten. Our side reporters have just brought to our attention that Santa Anna's power in Mexico has taken yet another fall for good reason.
Here at the scene with Santa Anna, there's still a few questions I'd like to ask him. So, why is this your last reign?
Well, there were times before in which I rose to power, yet fell again. But this final fall has changed things because politics in Mexico have been handed over to Benito Juarez and become influenced by him.
I have now also brought in Benito on site. Now tell me, what sets you two men apart?
Well, we did both become from 2 different families. While I was raised in a well-off Creole family, which things were different in Juarez.
He's right. I was born into a much poorer Zapotec Indian family, and at the age of 3, I became an orphan.
Well, aside from family differences, how did Santa Anna use your power for Mexico?
I'm being honest with you, I mostly placed my personal power first, then on helping the country.
And how do you plan on using your power, Benito?
I mainly aim to work on serving this country and making it better.
Perfect. Thank you for your
It's
time.
clear to see that Benito has been risen to power from his personal leadership
I'm
qualities.
gonna have to agree with you on that one. We had a completely different childhood from Santa Anna growing up, which has now become an advantage. Like Santa Anna, he was raised on a farm in the state of Oaxaca, having to work twice as hard and prove himself. Yet it didn't stop there. At the age of 12, he moved to the city of Oaxaca, having to move on from his life in the Mexican state of Oaxaca. After having moved to Oaxaca City, young Benito started school when he was 15. He kept working hard and entered a university where he later received a law degree after 3 years. News yet again. I've just received information that an artist, Jose Clemente Orozco, has dedicated a portrait named The Church and the Imperialist in celebration to the former liberal reformer, an on-site reporter who is with the artist.
Now, Jose, can you tell me a bit about your painting?
Well, as you can see, the shoulders show the readiness in preparing to attack representatives of imperialism. Then I tried to show how those that supported Emperor Maximilian were blown away carrying his body.
So overall, what was the message that you were trying to get across with the painting?
I wanted everyone to see how Juarez was a symbol for both rally and a rallying cry for Mexican independence.
Well, that's very nice. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Before we end the segment, I'd like to take us back to before the death of Benito and what he did with his law degree. With this achievement, he took the opportunity in opening a law office in the city of
Clients
Oklahoma.
were known to be poor people who could afford legal assistance. Benito became known for honesty, integrity, hard work, and good judgment, and that he presented to all of his clients during their
Such
situation.
a great reputation, he was elected to become the city legislator, then chosen to serve as governor of the state of Oklahoma.
That's how Juarez's rise to power began slowly yet steadily over the course of the years. Thank you for tuning in. Now onto our next segment.
Is sponsored by BioFreeze.
Cool the pain. Welcome back.
Today's segment, we're taking you back to the early 1500s, where we find Juarez Bonita starts a liberal reform.
We've now brought in Juarez. Juarez, what are the major goals for the La Reforma?
The movement is meant to separate the church, state, increase educational opportunities for the poor, and distribute land.
It had some impact. It also caused a lot of tension with the government, and I have brought Santa Ana here to talk.
While Juarez's revolt had some potential, overall it will be beneficial in the long run.
Okay, and how are you planning to deal with this tension in Juarez?
I'm going to have to get rid of this whole situation by exiling Juarez.
Aw, tough, okay.
2 years later.
And Anna seemed confident in his plan to get rid of Juarez. His government was brought down by a rebellion and Juarez was sent home. To talk about Mexico's citizens in poverty, I brought in liberal leader Ponciano Agarria. So can you please tell me about what's happening in Mexico right now?
Many landowners have bought up so much land, and that has left over 5 million Mexicans homeless. And while this is bad for Mexicans, it's also bad for everyone else because there's no food being grown in the nation.
Thank you for your time.
But yeah, for sure.
He was sent back at the right time too, because Mexico is going through some harsh changes. Many Mexicans are in debt due to their landowners.
So at the beginning of the battle, the liberals had the higher ground, but the rebels pushed through, and they now have control of Mexico City, but the liberals are keeping up the fight from the city of Veracruz, and after 3 years of battle, defeated the liberals.
Battle, Juarez was elected president of Mexico, but that wasn't the end of Mexico.
Conservatives that lost the battle are now planning to reconquer Mexico with the help of some Europeans and with the help of Napoleon. They have begun their battle. Now taking you to Mia, who's with Napoleon now.
Okay, so right now I'm in Mexico talking to Napoleon about his plan for battle.
So after a lot of fighting, we have taken over Mexico, and I have appointed Maximilian to be Mexico's emperor while we decide what to do.
His plan
Okay,
was
thank you.
unsuccessful and he had to draw his army to withdraw.
Maximilian was captured and executed, and Juarez is now back in. Mexico is being restored by Juarez, and we have granted to him about what changes he's making.
Alright, since you have been re-elected, what changes have you made to improve Mexico?
I've been in the city by expanding our trade, opening new roads, building railroads, and I've set up new educational
For the
systems.
country.
The land and the citizens have all gone through so much, and I wanted to somehow change the country for the better.
Impact in the history of Mexico, and kept his fight until the death in 1872.
Thanks for tuning in.
Welcome back. I'm here in Mexico where Porfirio Diaz has just adopted an approach called Panopalo. Now tell me what the Panopalo is.
It's an approach to control some groups in the Mexican society. And I have just won the support of the church and the wealthy landowners.
Diaz's cruelty ultimately benefited the country's economics. In the 1870s, Porfirio Diaz came into power.
Juarez refused Diaz's request of a government position, so then took control. Indians and small landowners are now supporting Juarez in hopes of getting more radical
In
land.
support, he allowed anyone who supported him to obtain land, power, and favors, yet if you were against him, he would beat you or put you
His
in jail.
methods were very bad. They were what kept him in power.
He didn't care for the well-being of his people. He simply wanted to make more money. With his harsh rule, a lot of controversy has
The
gone
wealthy
through.
kept wasting away land that could be used, and something
People
needed to
have
be
been protesting the rule of Diaz, which may perhaps be the end of his dictatorship.
During the early 1900s, Diaz was a harsh ruler, and many protested against him as they were very oppressed. Many wanted liberty.
And fairer wages and better wages.
Parties formed to oppose Diaz.
The most powerful party was led by Francisco
He was born
Madero.
into a rich family and got an education in America and France. He was a democratic and desired for Mexico to be strong. He attempted to run for president, but Diaz arrested him when he was called for an armed revolution against Diaz.
Leaders rose in different parts of Mexico and gained their own armies. Francisco Villa made a Robin Hood policy by taking money from the rich and gave it to the poor. Emiliano Zapata raised a powerful army. Zapata desired for land to be returned to peasants and farmers.
He made a battle cry and it said Tierra y Libertad, meaning land and liberty. Villa and Zapata's armies won against Diaz's army. In 1911, Diaz agreed to step down from power.
In 1911, Madero was elected president. His policies were too liberal and not revolutionary, so supporters such as Villa and Zapata took up arms against him.
In 1930, Maduro resigned power and General Victoriano Huerta became
Huerta
president.
wasn't liked by many people, even with Villa and Zapata. They both allied with Venustiano Carranza, a politician who overthrew Huerta.
The three armies seized the countryside and approached Mexico City. Huerta was overthrown only after 15 months of power.
Took control and turned his army on the former revolutionary allies.
In 1990, Carranza trapped Zapata and killed him. Due to his death, the Civil War came to an end. More than a million of Mexicans
The
died.
Mexican Constitution by promoting education, land reforms, and workers' rights, and it was adopted in 1917. Although Carranza didn't support the final version of the Constitution, he was overthrown by Alvaro Obregón and
Obregón seized power violently, but didn't stay as dictator. He supported the land reforms and public education. He made public schools teach Spanish and stressed nationalism. His policies helped unite many regions and people of the country. In 1928, he was assassinated.
The National Revolutionary Party was created the very next year. They didn't tolerate opposition, but they did initiate peace and political stability.
Mexico was struggling towards peace as the rest of the world was on the brink.
I'm your host, Gracie Lee.
And Gren Garten, and we're signing off.